Welcome, I'm Vincent Makori, and this is Africa 54. Heavy clashes rocked the capital of the Central African Republic today, just hours before the United Nations was set to authorize a mission aimed at stopping Muslim-Christian violence. And now chaos has gripped the nation since a March coup. McNeish has more from the northern town of Bossangoa. Looks like we don't have Hannah McNeish story. We go straight to New York, where our UN correspondent is standing by, Margaret Besheer. Welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks, Vincent.
The resolution at the United Nations Security Council today.
Yeah, we just had the vote about 20 minutes ago. The Council voted unanimously to adopt this resolution. It's going to provide for the protection of civilians, the stabilization of the Central African Republic, and the restoration of state authority. And it creates the conditions for providing humanitarian aid. Those are the goals. And so what it's going to do is finance and support under UN measures the African troops that are going to be there. We have now Makori. It's going to be rehatted on December 19th as MISCA, and that's about 3,000 troops. It's going to go up, I think, to about 3,500. And the French forces, we have about 400 on the ground now, and that should go up rapidly to about 1,200. And so they're going to try and stabilize the situation. And this resolution also prepares for possible next steps, including turning this into a UN peacekeeping force. But that wouldn't happen until next year, possibly certainly not before March. This resolution authorizes MISCA for a year, but it has a 6-month review. So we're looking at March, April, for when the Secretary General would have to report back on the feasibility of a UN peacekeeping mission. But a peacekeeping mission won't be needed if MISCA and the French can do the job now. The resolution also gives them an arms embargo, no guns in, no guns out for Central African Republic. The Council has said they're ready to impose sanctions on political spoilers and human rights violators. So it's a pretty strong resolution.
Now, we know that the UN, including the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, has actually challenged the authorities in Bangui to do more to stem this violence. What specifically is being said about the government in Bangui?
Well, look, it's always the state's responsibility to stop violence in its own country. Regional help, international help, that's more a last resort. So definitely the Central African Republic needs to do some work on its military. It needs to extend the state's authority throughout the country, but they're going to need help to do it. And that's what the international community said today. We realize this is a catastrophe, a humanitarian catastrophe. We don't want it to spiral out of control. We are seeing intercommunal problems between Christians and Muslims that we had not seen before. Much of the country needs humanitarian aid. So now hopefully these troops, the MISCA and the French, are going to be able to leave Bangui and get out to parts of the country that nobody has really been able to get to before and bring stability to these areas. And also, let's think about who the players are here, the bad guys, so to speak. It's not like in Mali where it was armed terrorist groups and real serious groups. It's in a lot of cases teenagers, armed teenagers, gangs. So hopefully they will be able to bring this under control. And we heard this morning that some of these groups are already fleeing, just knowing that the French and the African troops are going to be coming.
Okay, we'll be watching this very closely. Margaret, thank you very much. That's Margaret Besheer reporting live from the United Nations in New York. Now, let's go back to our report that we mentioned, heavy clashes rocking the capital of the Central African Republic today, just hours before that United Nations resolution that has been passed. Now we go to Hannah McNeish, who will travel to the Central African Republic, and she reports from the northern town of Bossangoa.
Deserted, razed villages line more than 100 kilometres of road south of Bossangoa, where tens of thousands of people are seeking shelter in a Catholic mission. They fled the Seleka, whose brutalities have driven some 400,000 people in the Central African Republic from their homes. Bishop Nestor Aziagba says that the foreign mercenaries that seized CAR's presidency for Michel Jotodia are responsible for the many abuses against the population.
So they started committing exactions against the local population, looting the properties, cows, ransacking their crops, burning down everything they have, and they don't. The government is not doing anything to protect them.
The brutality has turned a political conflict into a human rights catastrophe involving sectarian bloodletting. Among the new arrivals to the overcrowded camp is Dofio Rodriguez, who fled a Seleka attack that killed 30 people.
After coming from their base and circling the village, one Friday morning at 5 a.m. the Seleka started firing, sustained gunfire, with bullets flying everywhere, killing people, children, men. You had to run to escape.
In the Muslim quarter, trader Saleh Garba says he has documented over 500 deaths carried out by Christians against Muslims, including a September attack on 2 villages near Bossangoa.
They massacred all the Muslims living there. There were some who were over 50, 60, 70 years old, who lived in the village. They killed everyone, men, women, even pregnant women. They beat them until the babies came out.
A handful of some 3,000 regional peacekeepers guard the Catholic mission and a school where some 1,000 Muslims are also seeking refuge, mainly from Christian self-defense groups. The defense groups are armed with bows and arrows, daggers and machetes. With all security forces and officials having fled months ago, a few thousand regional troops have the seemingly impossible task of protecting CAR's people from heavily armed marauding gangs. The chaotic situation has left both Muslims and Christians praying for a proper intervention that can quell the violence and stop the bloodshed. Hannah McNeish for VOA News in Bossangoa, CAR.